Marcus Hayes, Fight Hub TV, powered by Stagefront VIP, with El Jefe, the president of Showtime Sports, Mr. Steven Espinosa. Steven, how are you?
I'm good, man. Excited.
Probably the biggest week of the year in boxing, barring another announcement, right? This is probably the biggest week. What do you think about the matchup? Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, laying it all on the line, laying reputation, laying legacy on the line. Talk to us about that.
Well, the reality is, I think one of the reasons people are so excited about this is because no one really knows how it's going to go. Like, Tank has not been in with anybody like Garcia, and the same for Garcia. He's not been anyone like Tank. So, look, you can't just look and say, Mario Barrios was a tall fighter and Tank did okay. He doesn't have the speed or the power. Mario is a very good fighter. Ryan Garcia is a different fighter. In the same token, nobody on Ryan's resume is anything like Tank. So no one really knows, how is Tank going to deal with the speed? How is Ryan going to deal with the power? Nobody knows until you get in the ring. And I think that's what has people so excited about this is the unpredictability.
And with the unpredictability, Mr. Espinosa, one unpredictable factor in this bout that is talked about a little bit, but I don't think a lot of point has been made on it, Ryan hits hard. Ryan's probably one of the hardest punchers in the division, any division that he walks into until proven otherwise. How do you think that Ryan's power factors into the bout, and what variables does it present?
It's a really good point because there are sort of dimensions to this. I mean, it's very easy to say, power versus speed, Tank versus Ryan. It's not that, because that discounts and underappreciates two different aspects. One is Ryan's power, because he does have power. And the most effective thing with power is if you combine it with speed and you don't see it coming. And that's Ryan. But also on the Tank side, it's easy to sort of overemphasize his power. That's what sells tickets. That's what gets views. Everybody loves it. But his boxing is underappreciated. And the reason you know that is everybody knows the power's coming. And yet he's still able to get those highlight reel knockouts. That means he's setting it up. He's doing something right. He's not just coming in and relying on his power. He's boxing, he's setting it up. So to say this is, just speed versus power is oversimplifying it, because you've got speed on both sides, you have boxing skill on both sides, you have power on both sides.
When we start talking about Tank Davis, when Tank Davis gets his opponents hurt, he seems to be one of the best finishers in the world. What do you think Ryan Garcia has to do if he does end up getting buzzed by Tank Davis early in the fight or at any point during the matchup?
Well, I was very impressed by what you saw in the Campbell fight, and his reaction. Now, I don't know that reaction is the best way to go at Tank, because what Ryan did is he got up and he was aggressive immediately. That probably means he wasn't as hurt as maybe he looked like, because he came back, and probably won the rest of the round after that. Now going right into the lion's den after Tank hurts you maybe isn't the wisest thing, but he certainly has the heart, and the courage to not be intimidated. If he does get hurt, look, he's weathered the storm before. And I think that's the big thing here. Look, one of them's going to make a mistake, and a lot of people think that's what's going to determine this fight. Whoever makes the first mistake is going to lose.
Steven Espinosa echoing the words of Oscar De La Hoya in regards to, Oscar called it high-stakes chess, basically, that the first person that makes a mistake will ultimately be the one that loses. I talked to Kenny Ellis earlier. He didn't really agree. He says that if Tank makes a mistake, they'll just fix the mistake, that it's not going to cost them the fight. But I want to ask you, Mr. Espinosa, if Tank is to carry the day like everybody feels like he may, what exactly does this mean for Tank Davis's legacy? What does this mean for his legacy with a victory, even with a knockout over Ryan Garcia? Where does this put either fighter if the fight does end in the KO?
Well, people use the word career-defining, a career-defining fight. And this would be a career-defining win for either one of them at this point. But it's also, I think, career-making. Because if you look at the history of the sport, every fighter who's gone on to, true superstardom had at least one fight that sort of elevated them up. For Mayweather, it was the De La Hoya fight. It put him at a different level. And you need those big mega fights, coming out impressively to get to that next level. So I think that's one of the chief benefits of a fight like this. Whoever loses isn't done. It's still, a solid fighter and still one of the elite fighters in the division. But whoever wins gets put at a different level in terms of how they go forward and where they are in terms of their career. It really has the potential of elevating. It will elevate both of them, but the winner in particular gets a huge boost from a fight like this.
Do you echo the sentiment that the winner of this bout becomes the face of boxing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, Canelo is a massive celebrity, pound for pound and all of those things. And I don't want to discount him. I think what people are sort of saying that about is sort of like, okay, who's next? And not that anybody's ready to be done with Canelo, but we're talking about the next generation. Who jumps to the top of the list of the next generation of fighters? I mean, you've got plenty of guys in that category. These two guys, you got Tank, you got Ryan, you've got Boots Ennis, you've got a number of guys who are ready to sort of step up and carry the next generation of the sport. And I think that's what people are saying. I mean, no one is saying that, hey, all of a sudden you're a bigger draw than Canelo just by virtue of this win. But, having said that, look, this will be every bit as big a gate as any fight that Canelo has done.
And with that, a sellout. I mean, the fight sold out in less than 5 hours. What does that say about how massive this event is going to be? We see early in the week already, raucous fans all over the hotels. They're out everywhere. You see the billboards everywhere. What is your expectation for fight night, for the arena for fight night?
Well, and the thing with a sellout at very aggressive ticket prices, to say that it is. I mean, look, the lowest ticket price on this fight is, I believe, higher than the highest ticket price, for Jaime Lomachenko. Now, that's not to say that there is, that's a bad fight. It's clearly a good fight as well. But it just shows a different level of enthusiasm and passion for these two fighters. And that's going to be reflected, at the venue on fight night. It's going to be reflected at the weigh-in. It's going to be reflected in the hotel otherwise. I mean, these are two of the guys with two of the biggest and most enthusiastic fan bases in the sport.
I want to mention another fighter for you. You say enthusiastic fan bases. Jake Paul. Jake Paul is going up against Nate Diaz. What do you think about that matchup? And if I could, why didn't Showtime pick the fight up?
So I think it's an intriguing matchup. I mean, look, Jake Paul is done made a lot of progress in a very short amount of time. I mean, I don't think anyone's asked him if he's a credible boxer anymore. Fury loss or no Fury loss, he's proven that he belongs in the sport. And look, this is a massive event. I mean, it's a massive promotion just because of the trash talking that's going to go on. Look, there's a lot of factors in going on to this. Look, we need to make a deal that makes sense for us. And there are others who, made offers which quite honestly didn't make sense for us. So, look, more power to Jake. We still support him. We may be in business with him, going forward. It just, with what we had going on, what sort of some of the parameters on it, didn't make sense.
About 3-4 weeks ago, we saw Jake Paul in Miami with Floyd Mayweather Jr. Looks like they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. They had this fake beef that was going on where Jake Paul ended up running off. Now that we all know that it was fake, Jake Paul came out the other day and said that it was fake. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't there. I'm not sure it was as fake as everyone would like to believe. But I also don't think it was what it looked like. I don't think, Jake is actually running from anybody. But look, both of those guys are consummate promoters, consummate showmen. So I think they knew what they were doing. So I would say, I'm not sure it's fake, but it certainly was done because, partially they knew what kind of response they would get.
And I saved the best for last, Steven. The biggest fight, the big fight, the big papa. Earl Spence Jr., Terrence Bud Crawford. There's been rumors swirling around. I mean, a ton of rumors swirling around. I keep hearing it. I'm hearing trainers bringing it up. I'm hearing people who potentially could have something to do with it bringing it up. Tell me, how close are we to getting what potentially could be the biggest fight in the last 10 years of boxing?
We're close, but we've spoken over the years. You've heard me say it before. Deal's not done till it's done, and particularly this one, because I thought we would get a deal done last fall, and we were very close last fall, and it didn't happen. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. This deal is not done until it's done. The good thing is we're much closer now than we were last fall, and we are making progress. There are active discussions going on. At this point, there are no plans for anything on Saturday for an announcement. It doesn't mean it won't happen. We could stay up into the late hours, get everything done inside tonight, and everybody coming on the plane. But I think I hate to throw cold water on it because I want the fight as much as anybody. But I think people are sort of trying to connect dots that aren't connected. You look at sort of the dates, and you see TGB and PBC have June 17th. They've got it reserved in Vegas and in Texas. People are saying, they want to believe that's for Spence Crawford. It's not June 17th. It never was. Now,
Say that again.
It's not June 17th, and it never was. Like yes, PBC and TGB have that date, but that's not an Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford date. And by the way, if I were Terrence Crawford, I don't know that I'd be crazy about going into Texas. Just like Errol wouldn't go to Nebraska, for an undisputed title. And when you've got two champions, it's probably going to be on neutral ground. It's probably in Vegas. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's still a deal that needs to be done, and we're getting close. I'm optimistic that it will be done. Look, it's Wednesday afternoon. Could happen before Saturday. I would think that more likely it's not going to happen before Saturday, and we'll be announcing it hopefully in the near future.
So with that having been said, when we start talking about Spence and Crawford, and yeah, you did throw a little bit of a cold water on it, unfortunately.
I don't take any pleasure in
But
that.
I wanted to ask you, I talked to Calvin Ford a couple of weeks ago, and Calvin let me know, hey, the Davis-Garcia fight is significant because it'll proverbially unclog the drain, and the top guys in the sport will realize, hey, I want what I just saw. Talk to us about potentially how the Davis-Garcia fight could lead us to the matchups that all the fans have been salivating for.
Look, the fighters are competitive, and there's also some FOMO going on. You see an event and, and not calling out Spencer Crawford, I think anybody, Wilder Ruiz, any other fight that's been talked about, they see this, they know, look, fighters get in this environment, Deontay and Ruiz were both at Benavidez plant, and they're all competitive. They love the atmosphere. You start seeing this and you start imagining yourself in this atmosphere, on that stage, on the dais, and I think it does provide a little bit extra incentive to get those fights done.
Are we close to Wilder and Ruiz at all?
Deontay's got a lot of different options. He's talked to a lot of people. I think, for my money, I think that's the best one, the most realistic one. I think that's one that I think is very makeable and that I want to see. But it's, at this stage in his career, he's taking the reins and he's exploring all his options. I think, whatever it is, it'll be a big fight.
Have you guys talked any about Wilder versus AJ? We saw AJ beat the 989 assassin last week in a rather lackluster performance. A lot of people kind of down on him about his performance and his lack of throwing punches. Is there any way that this year that there may be a Wilder versus AJ fight somewhere like Africa? I heard Wilder mention that before.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. It really, I think the ball is in the court is on AJ's side. It seems, his team is looking at some other opportunities, a sort of slower grind. They've talked about a Dillian White rematch and maybe some other opportunities. Look, Wilder's never been the issue, and so if there are other plans, whether it's adjusting to Derek James or getting another fight under his belt, that's fair. But I still think that's one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing.
Do you think that the kind of balking that they're doing about the Wilder fight represents that they're probably just not confident in the fact that AJ will be able to stand up to the eraser right hand of Deontay Wilder?
Well, first of all, I don't think AJ, has a lack of confidence in anything. Again, I've yet to meet a fighter who's as scared of any fight or scared of a challenge. That's not how they're built. Whether his advisors around him want to take a little bit slower, I think that may be possible. And I don't blame him having switched trainers. There's things to work on. I don't think it was, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but I don't think that Jermaine Franklin gave him a lot to work with. So I don't think it's fair to just judge him based on that. So I think, if you ask AJ, putting all the other things aside, forget money, forget the deal, forget, the advice, would you want to fight Wilder? He would say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it this summer. But, he's also a businessman, and he's got to listen to his advisors. And if we get it, next year, I still think it's a big fight.
Excellent. Well, there you have it, folks. Marcus Hayes with Fight Hub TV, here with El Jefe, Mr. Stephen Espinosa, the president of Showtime Sports. Stephen, thank you for your time, man.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe for more videos of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Hub TV, and give us a follow online as well at Fight Hub TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.